Let me paint you a picture. There's a dinner party happening. The conversation is flowing easily. He's talking about his promotion. She's describing her vacation. They're all laughing at the right moments. And then, there's you, sitting at that table, noticing how his voice wavers when he mentions his job, how her smile tightens just slightly when someone asks how her marriage is going, how he goes quiet whenever the topic turns to success. You notice all of it, and you feel it all, while everyone else skims across the surface of the interaction like a stone skipping on water. You're down at the bottom, feeling the current, sensing the pressure, wondering if anyone else can feel what you're feeling. That's the deep thinker's reality, and it's one of the most misunderstood experiences a person can have. Here's the first thing I want you to understand. You're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You're not overthinking. Your brain actually works differently. Neuroscientist Dr. Elaine Aron's research on highly sensitive people shows that roughly 20% of the population has a nervous system that processes the world more deeply, picks up on subtleties others miss, and feels emotional undercurrents that most people walk right past. She calls them highly sensitive persons, and if you're watching this video and nodding along, you're very likely one of them. Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists who ever lived, understood this profoundly. He wrote that the more intelligent and self-aware a person is, the more they suffer from the general unconsciousness of society. That's not a badge of honor, he warned. It's a recognition of the real weight that comes with seeing clearly. And here's the thing. Once you've seen behind the curtain, you can't pretend the curtain is still there. It's like discovering that the world has color when you've only ever been told it's black and white. You can't unsee the vibrancy. You can't go back to pretending grayscale is enough. Remember I promised you something special at the end of this video? We're building toward it. Keep watching. So why does this depth feel so isolating? Why does seeing more, feeling more, and questioning more leave so many deep thinkers feeling like they're standing outside looking in at a party they weren't invited to? The answer lies in what we might call the frequency problem. Deep thinkers operate at the frequency of truth. Most social environments operate at the frequency of comfort. And truth is uncomfortable. It's inconvenient. It asks us to look at things we'd prefer to ignore, to feel things we'd rather numb, to question things we've always taken for granted. When you bring truth into a room that's running on comfort, you don't get applause. You get silence, you get polite smiles. You get changed subjects. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about people he called free spirits, those who'd broken away from conventional thinking. He believed they were essential for human progress, but he also acknowledged they paid a heavy price for that liberation. And Arthur Schopenhauer compared most people to hedgehogs trying to keep warm in winter, huddled together but pricking each other when they get too close. The deep thinker, he suggested, has particularly sharp spines. They're desperate for real warmth, real closeness, but something about their very nature seems to make it difficult. Now, this doesn't just happen in adult life. It starts young. The deep thinker child is the one asking the questions that make grown-ups uncomfortable. Why do adults say one thing and do another? Why does everyone pretend to be happy? Why do the rules seem arbitrary? And what happens? They're told to stop overthinking. They're told to be more like the other kids. The questions don't stop. They just go underground. And by the time that child grows up, they've learned a very sophisticated survival skill. They've learned to wear a mask. And here's where it gets really interesting. Stick with me because this next part is one I think is going to resonate deeply. The mask isn't about deception. It's about survival. The deep thinker learns to gauge the emotional temperature of every room before they speak. They learn to laugh at jokes they don't find funny, to hide their reactions to cruelty or superficiality, to make themselves smaller, dimmer, less threatening. Psychologists call this masking fatigue, and the exhaustion it creates is real. It's not the tiredness that comes from not sleeping. It's a soul-level depletion that sleep can't cure. And there's a devastating irony here. The very people who are best at understanding and supporting others, the ones who remember anniversaries, who check in on friends going through hard times, who hold space for other people's pain without flinching, are often the last ones to receive that same depth of care in return. Deep thinkers become the unofficial therapist, the emotional anchor, the one people call when they're falling apart. But when the deep thinker needs support, they often find that others just don't know how to meet them at the level they need. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust and went on to write one of the most important books about human meaning, understood that a person can endure almost any suffering as long as they can find meaning in it. But what happens when meaning is systematically stripped away? What happens when work is reduced to productivity, relationships to transactions, and existence to a series of notifications and distractions? The deep thinker feels this absence of meaning more sharply than almost anyone else. They can't just go through the motions. They need their work to matter. They need their relationships to be real. Quick pause here because I want to mention something important. If you're finding value in this conversation, please subscribe to this channel, because we consistently go deeper than surface-level content, and the insights we explore here are the kind that actually change how you understand yourself and the people around you. Now, back to it, because we're getting to the part that I think you've been waiting for. Here's where the story shifts. Because being a deep thinker isn't only a burden, it's also a profound gift. Jung wrote extensively about what he called the wounded healer, the person who has been broken by life but transforms that brokenness into a source of wisdom and compassion for others. The deep thinker who has spent years feeling misunderstood becomes extraordinarily skilled at making others feel understood. The one who has been rejected for their intensity learns to create spaces where intensity is welcomed. The one who has been told they're too much becomes the person who can handle other people's too much without flinching. This transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires what Jung called individuation, the process of integrating every part of yourself, including the shadow parts you'd rather deny. It means learning to see your sensitivity as a strength rather than a liability. Your intensity as a source of power rather than a source of embarrassment. Your depth as a treasure rather than a burden. Now I want to talk about something called the alchemy of solitude. Because there's a critical difference between being lonely and being in solitude. Loneliness is the pain of disconnection. Solitude is the richness of being connected to yourself. For the deep thinker, learning to transform enforced isolation into genuine solitude is one of the most important skills they can develop. When you're away from the pressure to perform normalcy, when you're not managing other people's comfort or hiding your reactions, you can finally breathe. You can process the enormous amount of emotional information you've absorbed. You can remember who you are beneath all the adaptations and masks. The question that haunts so many deep thinkers is, where are my people? And the answer is, they exist. They're hiding too. They've learned the same camouflage strategies you have. Finding them requires patience, courage, and what I'd describe as a kind of emotional sonar. They're the ones who ask follow-up questions. They're the ones who seem genuinely curious about your inner world, rather than just waiting for their turn to speak. They're the ones who notice things other people miss. And when two deep thinkers finally recognize each other, there's an almost physical sense of relief. Now, speaking of finding tools that support your inner journey, I want to share something with you that I genuinely think can make a real difference for people who think and feel at this depth. If you've been nodding along to everything we've been discussing today, you already know that fragmented advice and quick fixes don't work for you. You're the kind of person who needs a complete, coherent framework, not a collection of random tips. That's exactly why the Self-Mastery Bundle was built. It's a comprehensive system with 30 detailed guides and over 210 interactive tools designed to take you from where you are right now to where you know you're capable of being. It covers everything from shifting your mindset to building deep work habits, from conquering procrastination to designing a life that actually reflects your values. For someone who thinks as deeply as you do, having a system that matches your depth isn't optional, it's essential. There's a limited time launch price available right now, so check the description below for all the details. Now, I promised you something special at the end of this video, and we're almost there. Keep watching because what I'm about to share is the thing I want you to carry with you after this is over. In a world that profits from your insecurity, choosing to be authentic is a genuinely revolutionary act. The deep thinker who refuses to dim their light, who keeps asking the uncomfortable questions, who insists on meaning when everyone around them is fine with distraction. That person poses a quiet but powerful challenge to systems built on compliance. And yes, that sometimes means being misunderstood. It sometimes means walking alone for stretches of time. But it also means something extraordinary. It means that every time you choose truth over comfort, every time you refuse to pretend that shallow is enough, you send out ripples. People around you, even ones who can't articulate it, receive something from your presence. Your authenticity quietly gives them permission to be a little more real themselves. You may never know the full extent of what your depth contributes to the world, but the ripples are absolutely real. Here's the special reflection I promised you. This is for you specifically. You are not broken, you are not too much, you are not the problem. You're awake in a world that often prefers sleep. You're conscious in a culture that frequently chooses unconsciousness. You're authentic in an environment that rewards performance. Your sensitivity isn't a weakness you need to manage. It's a form of intelligence that the world desperately needs. Your depth isn't a burden to apologize for. It's a gift, and there are people out there whose lives will be genuinely richer for having encountered it. The path forward for you isn't about becoming less. It's about becoming more skilled, more discerning, more rooted in your own truth so that the world's resistance can't shake you at your core. Don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Don't apologize for caring about meaning when everyone else seems fine with noise. The world may not always understand you, but it will be changed by your presence. And that is more than enough. Now, one more thing before you go. Right now on your screen there's another video you absolutely need to watch next. It's about Machiavelli's 10 psychology tricks for outsmarting people who played dirty. And you should watch it, because Machiavelli understood something that deep thinkers especially need to grasp. That being authentic and perceptive doesn't mean being naive. He knew how the game is really played, and knowing his strategies will make sure nobody can use your depth against you. Click it right now, it's waiting for you.